Hello, everyone. Today, I want to tell y'all a story of something that happened to me back in 2020. I've been a mystic since 2017. That's when I actually started living a supernatural life, started experiencing angels, demons, saints from the cloud of witnesses, all types of stuff, right? So, by the time the year 2020 rolled around, this was already my life. I was very comfortable in what I was experiencing. I was having heaven encounters daily, had been for years at that point. Um, so this is the story of how I first met the Archangel Uriel. So this again was 2020, and there was a prophecy that went viral around that time. If you were in certain streams around this time, you know what I'm talking about. There was this guy named Pastor Dana who released a prophecy saying, hey, come November of this year, everything is going to hit the fan. The United States is going to be destroyed. It's going to be horrible stuff all over the place. And this might be embarrassing for some, but just being honest about myself at the time, hearing his prophecy actually disturbed me, right? Because I was aware of sensing some things coming up myself, and the extent that he went with it. Now, there also at the same time were some red flags concerning his story, where he was saying that all he did was he would sit up all day and he'd look through newspapers and news articles all over the world all day long. And that should have been a telltale sign that this wasn't necessarily the purest of prophecy. But I've never been someone to write people 100% off, even when I can tell, something might not be all the way right. So, long story short, that disturbed me. I was a little bit bothered by that. And being the mystic that I was, I'm going into the heavens regularly. I have this great relationship with Yeshua. I was familiar with the archangels from a theological standpoint, where I had studied a lot of the archangels at that point, but had not had encounters with all of them at this point. Um, I had encounters with Michael. I had met Gabriel, but at this point, I hadn't met Uriel. And I knew that he was the angel that was somewhat ruling over the idea of turmoil or chaos as it pertained to humanity. So I went in the spirit and I went up into the heavens to meet with him. And when I met him, he was standing at a gate. He was standing at a fence in front of a field. And I remember seeing he wasn't wearing a shirt. He had on, I don't know what to call his pants, but he had on some dark colored pants that were almost like a kilt at the same time. He wasn't wearing a shirt. He was muscular. And he had these two swords held over his head. And he had a long ponytail. And I came and asked him because I knew this was his jurisdiction. I'm like, if anything crazy is about to happen, you're the one that's supposed to know it. And I remembered I went up to him and I asked him, I walked up behind him and I was like, hey, this was kind of troubling me. Is there any credibility to this? Is this actually going to happen? Is this stuff going to actually happen? And he turned, looked at me over his shoulder briefly, and just said, no, not this time. I've got it covered. Y'all don't have to worry about that for a while. And then he turned back, and I went back into the natural world. I went back to Earth, and immediately I just felt peace. I was like, okay, anxiety over, fear gone. I just talked with the boss over that stuff. It ain't happening. And lo and behold, come that November, none of the stuff that guy had prophesied had come to pass. He apologized, and I even respect that guy because he was very open. He was like, I would like for this to be false. I just don't think it is. And if it is, great. I hope it's not. And when it wasn't, he was very open about it. He was like, it wasn't real. Great. But that was my first interaction with the Archangel Uriel. cool meeting him. I've met him briefly in other interactions as well, but that was my first time meeting him. Him actually giving me peace in a moment where I was a little nervous. I had a little bit of fear, and I'm not someone that scares easy at all, but some of that stuff had actually gotten to me, and he helped me out. So hopefully this story was actually somewhat inspirational, or at the very least educational for some of you. Yes, the angelic is something that's easy to access, is something easy to work with. If you're walking in your sonship, this is stuff that's happening around you all the time. If you're walking in your sonship, this is something you have access to experience more than you currently are. There's layers and levels of this stuff. This is just scratching the surface. So that's it for this session. If you want to connect with me or any of the other stuff I have going on, check out my website, caveofmystery.org. It'll take you to the Discord server, my catalog of teachings on Patreon, my upcoming courses and classes, all of that stuff. So if any of that interests you, check it out, caveofmystery.org. Until next time, y'all be blessed.